All right, we are live and all set to go.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending the first community meeting of the future Northborough Dog Park. My name is Laurie Connors and I am Northborough's new planning director. I understand that efforts to create a dog park in Northborough date back more than 18 years. So this is an exciting time because the dog park is finally on the road to becoming a reality. At the April 2022 town meeting, $35,500 in community preservation funds were allocated to assessing the feasibility of up to 5 sites for use as a dog park. In July, the town hired Weston and Sampson engineers to conduct the feasibility study, coordinate a community outreach campaign, and prepare a preliminary design, including cost estimate for the site determined by the community to be the best fit for the future dog park. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to introduce you to the project team, go over the project schedule, talk about the type of amenities that could be included in the dog park design, discuss the pluses and minuses of the 4 sites that were analyzed by Weston and Sampson engineers, and obtain feedback from you about the location you think works best for the town and the type of amenities you prefer for your dog park. So I'm now going to turn the presentation over to DPW Director Scott Charpentier, who will introduce the project team. Scott?
Oh, thanks, Lori. You met Lori, our town planning director. I'm Scott Charpentier, the DPW director. We also have with us our rec director, Allie, our design firm, Weston and Sampson, with Mike and Jeanette on. I'll go over quickly kind of how we got here, a little bit more than what Lori just outlined. So as a team, we got together, we evaluated a number of properties that are owned by the town of Northborough, throughout the area, chipped off ones that did not make logical sense easily because of wetlands, topography, proximity, size, kept on whittling that down to what we feel are the most viable properties for consideration. And that's what we're here tonight to talk about. That whole process started after town meeting awarded the CPA funds and when they became available. So we started our meetings in September and early in September to look at these properties. It got us to where we are today. Part of the presentation you'll see today is other dog parks that some are in the area, some are outside of the area, but they provide good examples of features, amenities, sizes, the gold standard, the regular layout, and that's what we want to look at today. So the community gets an idea of what different dog parks may look like if they haven't been to a variety of them. The goal after this meeting is to have the site selected. Therefore, we can go forward into the design development process. We start off with a site survey, land survey, pick up any wetland flags that are required, identify utilities in the area for connectivity, produce preliminary design drawings at the 30% level, at which point we'll have another community meeting. The focus on that meeting will be more fine-tuning the design features, such as what amenities is the community interested in, present where we've gotten in the design. Is it all open space? Is it hard surfaces? Some of the features that we thought were most appropriate for the selected site. That will give our design firm, Weston and Sampson, the go-ahead to produce the 75% design, which will include a detailed construction cost estimate. That'll position us well for a CPC funding application so that we can go to town meeting in 2023 and seek construction funding for the project. Allie, if you want to go over a little bit of our goals and where we want to be.
Sure. Thank you. I'm Allie Lane, the Recreation Director. And first off, I just want to say how excited I am that we are at this point. So I've been the Recreation Director in Northborough for 20 years, and I've worked with many, many groups trying to achieve the goal of getting a dog park in town. So to be this close is very exciting, and I'm really looking forward to working with everybody on this project. Basically, our project goals, our end goal is to have a dog park in town. We have been, like I said, working really hard to get to this goal. We also want to point out that the dog park was one of the main goals for the master plan. So that's one of the reasons we really were able to get this going. We believe that a dog park will increase the value and the quality of life in Northborough. I believe we have, Lori, do you remember off the top of your head how many dogs we have in town? It was quite a bit.
You're putting me on the spot there.
I know, I couldn't remember
off-
off the top of my head there, but
I think it was 1,600 plus dogs, if I remember correctly.
the dogs. And I think that having a dog park in town is just such an important goal for everyone. It not only socializes your pet, it socializes the people who own the pets. So I think it's important that we reach out to the community and make sure that they're supporting the goals that we have and that we're all aligned and on the same page as far as what we're looking for in town. So I look forward to you guys taking a look at these different dog parks. We can go over the ideas and the locations, and hopefully by the end of this, we can come up with an idea of where we're going to be able to put the dog park.
Hi, I'm Jeanette from Western Wisconsin, and I'll be sharing with you two precedents of dog parks. This one is very special. Lori has been there. It's called Charlie's Bark Park. It's located in New York. It has 2 acres and it's divided mainly in 3 areas. It's the small dog area, large dog area, and the turf and spray fountain. The wet area where the splash pad or the spray fountain is, they have synthetic turf, and then the rest is natural lawn and plantings, and they have they have trails that connect all of these areas. Some of the amenities for the dogs are agility play. They have all sorts of variety of these ones, and the water play. For the other users, we have shade shelters and benches around the site. The second precedent that we want to share today, it's called Newtown Dream Dog Park. It's located in Atlanta, and this is 1 acre. It consists of 2 main areas, the largest being the large dog park area, and the smallest, the small dog area. Both of them have water play and agility play, and the whole park is made by synthetic turf. So that's kind of the main difference. It also has wood chips that is located underneath the trees and in the agility play areas. Some of the amenities that we wanted to share with you and hopefully receive feedback from our different services like lawn and planting, stone dust trails, synthetic turf areas, wood chips and mulch areas, dog amenities such as water play, sprinklers, and agility play equipment, and passive amenity areas, shade shelters, safe sitting areas, and fencing.
Thanks, Jeanette. My name is Mike Easler, and I'm also on the project team. You know, the location goals, we're really looking from the many, many sites that Scott discussed and whittled down to find which site is the best fit to hold all these elements. Out of the 4 potential sites, all of these sites would provide access to users throughout the town and provide opportunities for certain dog park elements. Any good dog park is going to have some key elements that are pretty much universal. One is fencing, having fencing all the way around to contain and hold the dogs. Having a small dog and a large dog area is another element that will be involved. At the entrance, there should be a two-door entryway, almost like a winter door system when you're walking into a building. That way, dogs can be controlled as they're going from on leash to off leash within the space. And then we're also looking for secondary amenities. Like Jeanette mentioned, options for shade. Natural shade is always an ideal and a plus for any site that's chosen. And then the other final thing that needs to be kept in mind is maintenance and wear and tear. Dogs can be very destructive over time just by their sheer self as they're enjoying the space. A larger dog park allows for that wear and tear to be distributed, and also design elements like locating cement and synthetic turf near the entrances and at the concentration areas, and then moving out from there to natural turf or wood chips and stone dust pathways. Also stone dust edging along the fences where dogs like to run back and forth more often. Of the sites, 4 sites became the most exciting or had the most potential for a new dog park. Carriage Hill Road, Boundary Street, Buena Vista Road, and Barefoot Road. Carriage Hill Road only has 2.2 acres available. Boundary Street has 8.6. Buena Vista Road only has 1 acre available. And Barefoot Road also has 2 acres available. As you can see, they're distributed somewhat through the center of town, understanding that Northborough itself doesn't have even distribution all the way around. I think anyone that is planning on taking their dog to a dog park is going to drive, which does bring up the fact that parking is going to be another element that has to be designed into this.
Mike, one other thing to add, the town owns a lot of parcels of land that are open, and if someone was to search our GIS database for town of Northborough, far more parcels would come up. Many of those parcels are dedicated conservation land. Several of them are owned by the Water Division and are part of wellhead protection areas, such as the open field you see adjacent to Watson Park. So that was part of the vetting process early on. We could very easily kind of check off a parcel and say, not viable, it's in a wellhead zone. Not viable, it's conservation land and completely wet. Not viable is DCR land. So it was a long process to get down to these 4 viable sites. So thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, and of course, all these sites have to have access as well. And there are plenty of potential properties that just don't have the proper street access. Our first option for a property was Carriage Hill Road. There's 5 total acres with 2.2 acres roughly available for dog park construction. The rest of the site has steep slopes, including a bit of a gully that moves into a low wooded marsh area. And there are utility connections available from the street. In the cons side of things, it's located on a residential cul-de-sac as the access point, which will have some limited vehicular access and minimize the amount of space that can be used and pushing more of the vehicles into the site, which shrinks the available dog park space. With the wetland resources and buffers, in any project that has this around, we're going to be very cognizant of runoff and making sure that we're controlling runoff before it gets to those sites. But on a site like this, there's a lot of control that would be necessary. And then there's a lot of residential abutters. Being at the high point on this hill, people both to the east and to the west would be able to, or would have some impacts both visually and by sound from the dog park area. The second option is Boundary Street. This was the largest parcel and has the largest available space. And this one does have an easement that would limit the type of construction that would happen in certain areas, as well as some wetland setback restrictions. But there's a large open area, as you can see in kind of the central core space of the property. It's in a protected open space and it's fully forested. And in other sites, these steep slopes are a bit of a drawback, but in this case, they actually provide a bit of a physical barrier and buffer between the residential spaces to the east and the park or potential dog park area. This would help mitigate the sound and visual impacts to local residents. Buena Vista Road is the smallest and has the smallest accessible area. As you can see, there are multiple easements running through the site, as well as a large wooded marsh on the west edge. There are utility connections available from Greenland Circle and Buena Vista Road, but it's a residential street connection. And also, it's a very wet site. The ground here is wet in general, so maintenance it would be tougher, making sure that things drain properly, didn't become mud pits. As much fun as dogs have in mud most of the time, owners are not so excited about that. The next option was Barefoot Road, and this is where Northborough Senior Center is located. Even though it's a 17-acre site, most of the site is quite steep. Large areas of the site have open water or wetland setbacks, and there is the Senior Center itself as an existing amenity on the site. It provides some access, but it also is something that we have to take into account if we're going to mitigate the effects of a dog park. As you can see here, there's only 2 acres available up against the edge of Barefoot Road. There is the potential for flooding in the low area as well. You can see in this area, this kind of peachy orange strip here, that's basically a chance of flood every 150 years or so. As things change or as we affect this site, we would have to keep that in mind, as well as make sure that we are properly treating stormwater that's running off of the potential dog park before it gets to these areas. So those are the 4 sites. I'm going to pull up the next slide and we can start to discuss them. I have all 4 of them on one slide, just the images for public discussion. But I just wanted to let you know we'll be having a second virtual community meeting in the future. And if you'd like, please leave your contact information either in the chat or you can send it to Scott, Ali, Lori, or myself. And I believe this will be available online. Lori, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong here, in the near future, this presentation.
Yes,
So I gotta unmute myself first. I'd be happy to upload this onto the planning department site. So that is where you'll be able to find this presentation.
So if anybody has any comments, questions, or thoughts from the public, use the raise your hand feature to do so, and we'll be happy to invite you in to take your comments and questions. And on the phone, I believe it's *9. Is that correct?
It's *6 to raise your hand on a phone. And then once you've been called upon and unmuted, it is *9 to actually unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you, Jim. So we have Henry S. Hello, Henry.
Hello, Henry Squilanti, 72 Crestwood Drive, Northborough, Massachusetts. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Henry.
Okay. A couple of things. As you know, as Scott knows, I've been talking to him about the senior center location. The smell, the noise would affect the patio, and it would affect the other rooms in that area. It kind of wraps right around the senior center. Boundary Street to me looks like the most logical. But when I look at what the other towns or cities have done, I believe this is going to cost us more than it costs to fix the park down on 135 and Monroe Street, down in that area. When I see fancy jumps and I see wading pools, I hope you realize that if you say there's 1,000 dogs in town, there's over 5,000 seniors in town. So that's another thing you should look at. But my idea is that Boundary Street would be the better of the 3 if we're willing to spend that much money to build a dog park. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. One of the intents of showing the Lake George Dog Park was to kind of put the Cadillac out there and show what all the amenities could look like. So Chris Woodcock, can you hear us, Chris?
Yep.
Okay.
I like the senior center Barefoot Road one. I have never smelled anything from any dog park ever. I'm not sure what that comment was about, but I've been to a few, never smelled anything. I'm wondering if the water, the pond near that one would be possible to be part of the park and to swim in. I know many years ago, lots of dogs used to swim there after walking there before the senior center. As far as amenities, certainly the fence, the large, small, the double doors. I don't know that we need any agility stuff like that. I love the idea of some sort of water feature or something for the dogs that love the water. I know in the unofficial dog park, a lot of the dogs swim in that water there in town. But I don't see any real need for a lot of other, amenities besides that. I just, anyways, I thought the Barefoot Road one, I understand the comments about senior center, and certainly being a senior wouldn't want to impact negatively on it, but I don't feel that it would. In fact, it might even be a nice feature for people to look at the dogs playing from the senior center. But anyways, I appreciate everybody doing all this stuff, and thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing what's happening.
Thank you, Chris. We have Linda Cragen. I'm sorry if I brutalize your name, and Bob Lang. Linda and Bob?
Yep. This is Linda Cragen, and my husband, Bob Lang. Bob works for the Senior Center, and I'm on the Council on Aging Board. We live at 6 Alcott Drive. We were involved in the building of the Senior Center, and the one opportunity for an addition planned into the design of the Senior Center is right where you're proposing where the dog park is. And I think that's an important consideration because, as Henry said, 5,000 seniors, and that number is increasing every single day. And the architect planned for that addition. So I would hate to pit seniors against dogs in that type of discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Allie, was that parcel of land in the front of the senior center location dedicated specifically to recreation use? I thought there was.
Yes, it was.
Okay. All right.
Yep, right where the 2 acres are located was specifically given to Parks and Rec for a Parks and Rec reason. So the
old
building,
fishing game parcel was broken up into 3 deeded uses. The front was the rec, the senior center is the obvious current use, and then the back was open space, I believe, and that's where the trails are up to Edmund Hill.
correct.
Right, Lauren Bailey Jones.
Hi there. Lauren Bailey Jones, 11 Elmwood Drive. Thanks so much for this presentation. I think that the visuals really help. And after sort of hearing all of the considerations, the pros and cons, I think the one that sticks out to me is the Boundary Street location for a couple of reasons. First of all, just the acreage. It looks like there's a little bit more space to work with, which is great. I don't really see too many abutters, which is also great. So that's sort of why the Buena Vista parcel doesn't really seem too appealing. And I like the ability to potentially have more of the trails as well. That was really appealing to me as I was listening to the presentation. I know a lot of dog owners in town enjoy places where they can bring their dogs, have them run around, and then also, hey, let's go for a hike. So those were some of the considerations that I really enjoyed hearing. I would say maybe my second favorite hearing tonight was the Barefoot Road Senior Center. But I know that someone who spoke earlier was just talking about the consideration of, pitting seniors against dogs, and I wouldn't want that to be a contention in town. But it does look like potentially the second best option, in my opinion. Also, I just wanted to mention I am a member of Northborough Unleashed. So we are a dog group here in town who has been sort of proponents of this dog park. And I just wanted to thank you all for your active participation in making this happen. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Lauren. And we have Nick and Jan Capello.
Hi, thanks. This is Nick. Am I coming through okay?
Yep, we can hear you, Nick.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I also want to echo a couple of comments that were just made in terms of appreciating you putting this meeting together to review the options. I am a dog owner. I've been to dog parks, and I think it would be great to have one in town. I'm pretty close to where I think it was Lauren that was just on in terms of my two top choices. I actually like the senior center choice as my number one and Boundary as number two. And I'm actually on the board of the Friends of the Senior Center, so I understand the issues that we want to make sure that the senior center, still gets all its fair due in all this. But I think one of the issues that gets brought up, and it's not just here, but I hear it a lot, is the smell is awful and everything. It doesn't have to be, and it doesn't have to be because I think wherever we put the dog park, we need some rules, and the rules are really simple. You clean up after your dog, and we have some disposal capability there. And given that, any dog park can remain, fairly clean. I think it's great if we can get one in town. I'm an avid dog person. My wife and I have had dogs for the 50 years we've lived in town, and walk our dog, clean up after our dog. And I would hope that if we're fortunate enough to get a park in town at any one of these places, but probably either Boundary or Barefoot, that the people that use it will be considerate. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, we have Mitch Cohen. Hello, Mitch.
Hey, everybody. Mitch Cohen, 12 Whitney Street. Thank you very, very much for everyone who's working hard on this. I'm also an informal part of the Northborough Unleashed group, and we're all very, very excited that this is moving forward rapidly in the right direction. I think both the Boundary Street and the Barefoot Road Senior Center sites have a lot of good advantages over the other two, each with some pros and cons. I'm wondering if anyone there can speak to the odor question that someone brought up earlier. I have been to a couple of dog parks and I haven't noticed an odor, but I'm not an expert on those things by any means. And also wondering if you could speak briefly to the grant programs available just to address the cost concern that someone brought up earlier. And I'll add that one of the things I like about the senior center site, if the odor issue and any noise issues can be dealt with, is that it's a much heavier traveled area. So both people driving down Barefoot as well as people going into the senior center would regularly see what was going on there, which I think is advantageous to making sure it stays clean and that people and their dogs behave properly, where the Boundary Street site might be a little bit more remote and not adjacent to any other busy property, that there might be some disadvantages to that. Thank you.
I'd be happy to address Mitch's comments. So I was the project manager for the construction of one of the earliest dog parks, the Butler Farm Bark Park in Millbury. And that is an 1.5 acre fenced in facility. And it was open to the public, I believe, in 2015. So it's been in operation for 7 years now. And I not only served as project manager, but also as the chair of the Millbury Dog Park Committee for that entire period of time. Actually, there were a couple of years I was vice chair. And we have never received any complaints about odor. So that has not been an issue that we have had to grapple with. There are MITMOT stations scattered throughout the park. I believe there are 3 within that 1.5 acre area, as well as poop bag dispensers, another couple of those. And for the most part, people are pretty good about cleaning up after their dogs. There are some exceptions. And the bins are emptied on a weekly basis, especially during the hot summer months. And then we had a dumpster, a 2-yard dumpster on site with a cover on it that was emptied on a regular basis. So that was emptied once a week during the summer months, and then every other week during the cold winter months. So odor definitely wasn't an issue. As far as grant monies are concerned, it is our intent to apply for Stanton Foundation grant. So the Stanton Foundation funds up to 100% of the design costs and 90% of the construction costs, up to $225,000. If our construction costs exceed $225,000, then it is expected that the town would come up with the balance. And the town is also expected to come up with a 10% match for construction. So it is our intent to apply for a Community Preservation Act grant. And it is our intent to submit that grant application by the deadline of November 1st.
Thank you, Lori. We have Amy Paretsky.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the presentation. It was a great presentation. And my vote would be for the Boundary Street area. I would hate to pit the seniors versus the dogs, like someone else had said. And I think it's great that the trash would be dumped weekly in the summer, because I did go on a bike trail up in Burlington, Vermont, where they had like 3 different dog parks along the route. And it was the heat of the summer, and one of them must not have been emptied, and I could smell it pretty far off. So I know the senior center has an outdoor patio where they enjoy the lunch in the summertime. And I would just rather see it on Boundary Street, so it'd be less of a concern for them. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. So during the summer months, just to put some of the DPW operations out there, during the summer months, spring, late spring, and definitely through summer, we'll run trash routes almost every morning. The trash barrels at Ellsworth are used all day, every day, throughout the spring and summer, you know, lacrosse practices and on. So during the heat of youth sports season, we're doing trash throughout the town almost every day, and that includes weekends. There's a lot of events over there on the weekends, so we'll come in on Saturdays as well and remove trash. And when we remove trash from the parks, we bring it back to the highway garage for our dumpster. We don't take it from one trash barrel into another one and leave it there. We move it out of the facility. So we have Shelley is next. Shelley? Shelley, you're on mute. I'm gonna.
They sent ask to unmute to the user, which sends them a prompt on their end. So it's up to them now to unmute themselves.
Okay. No. Going once, Shelley? Going twice? Well, we'll get back to you if you get off the mute. Lee Welsh.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Lee Welch. I'm also part of Northborough Unleashed. I wanted to call in today to voice my support for the site on Boundary Street. I thought it was a great presentation, and the pros and cons were listed very clearly. And I think the pros for Boundary outweigh all of the other sites. I have a lot of the same comments as Lauren did. The lack of abutters and the ability to have access to a hiking trail there is very appealing. But I think the biggest advantage of Boundary is the space. You know, some of the dog parks that we saw in the beginning of the presentation and in the research that we've done, you know, the park area themselves is, you know, about 2 acres was the average park size. So if you know, look at Barefoot, there's actually, if you take into account the parking that's required there as well, unless, I don't know if the intention was to use the senior center parking, or was there going to be dog park parking there?
There would be separate and dedicated parking for the dog park.
Yeah, so if that's going to eat into what I think is, you had said was 2 acres there, I think you're going to really cut into the size of the dog park itself. And especially if you're talking about a small area and then a large area. You know, I think that the space on Boundary would allow for ample parking, and then, you know, a really decent sized dog park. So that really stood out to me. You know, I do hear opposition from the senior center, and I think that would be a little uncomfortable if it were to land there. And thank you again for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lee. I'm gonna give you another try, Shelley, okay? Shelley? Okay, Nick and Jan Capello, you have another comment or question? Is it you again, Nick?
Yes, it is. Jan's here too. Yeah, question it's really a couple questions. One is the access going to be restricted to just Northborough residents? And then the second question, kind of along with that, is there any consideration for having electronic gated access? We've had experience of that at some dog parks we've visited, particularly in New Jersey. When we go on vacation, we pay a fee. It's actually an annual fee of like $40, and that allows us access to the dog park from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 365 days a year. And I wondered if there's any consideration for having electronic access and, you know, and having it fee-based.
Lori, didn't we talk a little bit about the limitations that you guys considered over in Millbury?
Yeah, this is a discussion that we've had since the very beginning in Millbury. Unfortunately, because our dog park was one of the first in central Massachusetts, in order to get permission from the Board of Selectmen, we committed to relying on member fees to support the maintenance of the dog park. And so we do have an application process, and the fee is $20 per year, regardless of your town of origin. That changed recently. Originally, it was $5 for Millbury Sutton residents and $20 for everybody else. But ultimately, we decided that it was more fair to do a $20 fee across the board. There are a couple of huge challenges with having a member fee, and that was the policing. So we talked back and forth quite a bit about whether we wanted to require electronic access or whether we didn't want to require electronic access. One of the big challenges is, of course, we had no electricity going to the dog park. So then we talked about doing a solar access, which was very expensive. So it wasn't something that we decided that we wanted to invest our meager resources in. So we have had issues through the years with people who are not members coming to the dog park, using the dog park. And on a very, very occasional basis, we have had incidents associated with those non-members. So I don't recommend doing restricted access just because of the policing. In the very beginning, we were very concerned about the message that we would provide if we had electronic access, because we figured that that would give the message that people weren't welcome. And we really wanted people to use our dog park. And then the other issue is we figured it would be easy enough for people to share the password with non-members if they were so inclined. And so that would defeat the purpose of having the electronic access. So for that reason, I do not recommend restricting access.
Thanks, Lori. Shelley, we're going to give you a shot again, okay?
How about now?
Yay!
Hey, it wasn't easy.
The floor is yours.
Okay, thanks. All right, I'm Shelley Dubin. I live on Crawford Street, and I thank you for doing this. A few comments. I worry with AstroTurf that would not allow for good absorption of urine, especially, and think that maybe wood chips would be better, and or grass. The grass needs to be maintained. So that's my thought about AstroTurf. I also feel that the agility park is maybe more than we need. Anyone who wants to get into agility can build their own park. I am a veterinarian, and I know a lot of people who are into agility, and I don't think they need to go to a public park for that. My other questions were, Alphabet Park has a lot of greenery and shade and trees beyond the play area. Why has that not been considered? Is there more space at Ellsworth that could be expanded as well? And I know Kearney Park is a very popular place that is recommended against free leash, non-leash walking. Is there any way that area could be fenced off so it doesn't bother the neighbors, and use that as an enclosed dog park, because it sure is used a lot, and I don't think people are going to stop going there. That's my my comments.
All right, well, Shelley, thank you. We looked into those parcels, some very quickly. Kearney Park is actually owned and operated by DCR, the State Department of Conservation and Recreation, and they don't allow off-leash, and they won't allow us to do a dog park there for the same reasons we got disallowed at a prior parcel on Hudson Street. Ellsworth, there is a lot of land, and we did look at a few locations on that parcel. They're very pocketed. There was a small dry area by the rear dirt parking lot, but it was smaller than Buena Vista, and the parking there is already troublesome. So we disregarded that parcel. Once we put the wetland buffers in, it became even smaller than Buena Vista. Assabet, I know the parcel you're looking at. It's above the wall, a whole bunch of large old growth wooded trees. The slope was very prohibitive there, as well as handicap access. That location would have required probably tiered retaining walls, or at least one large wall. And the biggest challenge there is gaining an accessible route from parking to the dog park. I mean, the route we have now from the Assabet parking is not accessible. We all know that. If that was to be built today, it would not be allowed. So that was the number one challenge at the Assabet parcel, where we disregarded that one from consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Shelley.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we have Nick.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Nick Peel. I live on Maple Street. I'm also a member of the Northborough Unleashed group. I just want to say thank you guys for putting this together. This is very extensive. It's very clear you guys consider a lot as part of the initial phase of this project. So appreciate the due diligence there. I don't really have any questions. I'm pretty familiar with kind of the goals and kind of some of these properties. I think just want to voice my support for Boundary Street for a lot of the reasons that have already been outlined today. Probably most importantly is the space, similar to what Lee had mentioned. I have a very active and social dog that could run through an acre of land really quickly. And so for that reason, as well as the nearby trails, I think Boundary Street, by having space, will allow us to be more flexible with the design and get all the amenities that we think we want. Now, obviously, maybe not the Cadillac, but the ones that are critical, as opposed to picking a smaller parcel that will require us to make trade-offs really early on in the design phase that some people may not really want to make. So just wanted to voice my support for primarily Boundary Street. I think the senior center does have some benefits, but the size of Boundary and the flexibility of that, I think is best. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Nick. Chris Woodcock, round two.
Just quickly, but I am so impressed by the knowledge and all the thought that's come in from everybody. Northborough Unleashed, thank you for everything you guys have done. I didn't realize there's been so much. Quick question, Scott. The Boundary Street property, is that the property that was bought for another purpose, and are we sure we're never going to need it again?
Yes, and yes. This parcel of land was purchased by Northborough in the early 60s when they were considering a wastewater treatment plant that was disallowed by the Department of Public Health due to the proximity of Marlborough's wastewater treatment plant. This parcel is separate and independent of another parcel of land that was purchased by the Sewer Enterprise Fund that is abuts this one, but is also abuts Main Street. So this is a separate and independent parcel from the sewer division's parcel. Okay, Chris?
Oh, yes, fine. Thanks. Yes.
Oh, okay. Make sure you heard me.
Thanks.
All right, thanks. Yep. And Nick and Jan, round three. Hello, Nick.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Were you looking to speak again? Your hand was still up.
Oh, my apologies. I didn't realize it was still up.
Oh, okay. All right. No problem. Thank you.
But
all right. That's all the public input. Any closing statements by any of the participants here, staff, Weston Sampson?
I just want to say I appreciate all the feedback that we've gotten. I think it helps us start to get an idea of what we are looking for in an ideal dog park, and we'll start designing it and costing it out once we have the final location.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Allie, you had something?
I just wanted to thank everybody, the team, the public. I think that with all of us working together, that this is definitely something that's going to be happen in the very near future, which is one of the things I've heard over many years is, you know, we'll talk about a dog park and they'll say, oh, it's never going to happen. And I think we're at a point now where we are ready to go. And I just want to thank the team because we've been working so well together and working with Northborough Unleashed, working with the public and really trying to narrow this down. I appreciate everybody's efforts.
Great. Yeah, I'll echo Ally's comments quickly that I'm impressed with the level of interest the community has. I've had dogs my whole life. I've never been to a dog park, and I'm definitely gonna have to check one out because people are very enthusiastic about this. So thank you very much.
And I just wanted to add that as somebody who's been involved with the construction and operation of the dog park, it's really exciting to work with you folks at the very early stages of getting this project off the ground. I can absolutely see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I am confident that this dog park is actually going to happen. So congratulations for taking the first step with us, and I look forward to working with all of you as we progress through the design process.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.